Metroid Prime is an incredible game, and much of that comes from the atmosphere that its environments create. From the relaxed vibes of the Tallon Overworld to the creepy Phazon Mines, Metroid Prime offered so much with its environments. In a Metroidvania game, you're going to likely spend a lot of time lost or searching for where to go next. So while the actual game design elements are really important, it's almost more important for the environments to just be enjoyable to traverse in and to just be in, because you're going to spend so much time in them. This is especially true in Metroid Prime because this game won't hold your hand much while you try to search for where to go. The 5 areas that I consider the main areas are Tallon Overworld, Chozo Ruins, Magmoor Caverns, Phendrana Drifts, and the Phazon Mines. So, let's go ahead and rank them. Number 5, Magmoor Caverns. Magmoor Caverns is the least interesting area just from a layout perspective, but it's also hurt by the structure of the game. From a design perspective, it has few branching paths, but you also go in and out of this area the most due to be the only way to get to Phendrana Drifts. I don't know the exact number of times that you go through here, but it's several times, and this problem is even more prevalent because of the artifact hunt at the end of the game. The artifacts in the Phendrana Drifts are, in my opinion, the hardest to find and the easiest to miss, which makes it likely that you'll have to go back through Magmoor Caverns to get there to collect those. But this isn't even an indictment on the drifts. This is bad for Magmoor Caverns. The sheer number of times you go through them makes it obvious how linear and uncavernous Magmoor is. It's really a straight shot from one end to the other with a couple bigger rooms, but these rooms don't have too much going on either. The enemies are also just less interesting than other areas, including bosses, because Magmoor Caverns doesn't have one. Like I said, even the standard enemies are worse here, just some fire guys that really aren't that memorable. Comparing these to the unique enemies in the Chozo Ruins, like the wasps, and the enemies in Phendrana Drifts, like the ice dinosaurs, Magmoor Caverns just does not compare with that. There's also not a real boss, like I said, in Magmoor Caverns, which hurts the memorability of this area by a lot. Additionally, it doesn't have another sort of super hype moment that some of the areas have, no cool twist or anything like that. Overall, I find Magmoor Caverns to be the least interesting area because it lacks both the most important aspects of Metroid. The combat isn't interesting because the enemies just really don't have much going on, and the same goes for the exploration here. Number 4, Tallon Overworld. This is the first place you explore, and it gives incredible vibes right off the bat. It's an incredibly relaxing area that gives you access to the rest of the world. However, it is obviously less expansive than the other areas because of its main function being access to the rest of the world. That doesn't really matter though. Anyone who's played Metroid Prime raves about the atmosphere and the vibe that the game gives you. Tallon Overworld sets the tone for that right off the bat, and Tallon Overworld is maybe what the peak of the vibes get to. The lush greenery combined with the running water make Tallon Overworld one of the 2 most visually pleasing areas in the game. Top 2. Although it mostly functions as a pathway to other areas, Tallon Overworld does also have the sunken frigate. The sunken frigate isn't quite like the other areas where to search through a lot of branching paths. It's one of the more linear sections of the game, and it feels more puzzle heavy. That is kind of refreshing when you compare that to the rest of the game. The rest of the game has a lot of spatial awareness kind of tests where you kind of have to figure out where you are spatially and solve puzzles to get to somewhere else, and that makes this sort of linearity a little bit more refreshing. But overall, Tallon Overworld is here because of the vibes. Its vibes are just immaculate. Number 3, Chozo Ruins. The Chozo Ruins feel like your first real introduction to what this game is all about. Even though you go through Tallon Overworld to get here, you pretty much get funneled straight to here. So yeah, this is your first real introduction. and it does a damn good job of introducing you to the game. You open up into a big, sprawling area showcasing the buildings left behind and the standard environment this area sports. The music gets going with percussion and otherworldly whirring sounds piercing your ears. And that may sound bad, but it's not. It's actually incredible. This environment nails the vibe. The music kind of just makes you want to explore while always being varied enough to not ever be annoying. It really sets this planet up as being alien. Now, let's talk about the design. Well, that's actually kind of hard because this area is so sprawling and we come back to it so much, it's hard to even know where to begin. The area first sort of funnels you left by limiting your options as you find your way to the Hive Mecca. This really teaches you about the loop the game gives you. You search and search for where to go, and you eventually find a boss that gives you a significant upgrade. Also, the overworld consistently gives you a carrot on a stick, showing you places that you can't quite go yet. Just really good at teaching you how the game works. The two bosses in this area aren't exactly electric, but they're good enough with the Hive Mecca and Flagra, something like that, big grass guy. They're not really electric, but it does showcase the kind of spectacle that you're going to get with the bigger bosses with Flagra, and then the sort of smaller bosses that you're going to have throughout the game as well. Number 2, Phazon Mines. The Phazon Mines are the last main area in the game, which means it benefits from a couple things. Samus will be fully upgraded, and the difficulty can be jacked up all the way. The way the mines benefit from Samus being fully upgraded is that its environment can make use of all of Samus's tricks. This helps the traversal in this area be really fun, especially when you compare it to the earlier areas in the game. And the difficulty part is quite clear. The bosses, the mini-bosses, and even the normal enemies are stronger and usually more fun to fight. So that's the overview of the mines. But what are its biggest strengths? The mines strut an eerie atmosphere as you come across more and more space pirate experiments. You knife through the dark industrial area, not knowing what monstrosity you will encounter next. So yes, as per usual, the vibe, the aura, the atmosphere is incredible in this area. In terms of the design, unlike most of the other areas, you don't have to leave the mines much as you go through it. You mostly just keep going through it, diving deeper and deeper, and it features some fun puzzle rooms with branching paths to untangle. Now let's talk about the enemies and the bosses that we fight here. The main mini-bosses that you fight here are the elite pirates, which give you a decent amount of challenge but aren't too difficult to where it's like frustrating to navigate through the area. Also, the story implications these enemies bring are incredibly interesting. The big bad of the area, though, is the Omega Pirate. It's kind of like a farther roided up elite pirate. And the fight is pretty fun. It really tests your mettle as you have to switch your visors back and forth to hit the elite pirate. And you have to fend off smaller enemies harassing you at the same time. So, the vibe is nailed in the Phazon Mines, and the enemies are pretty damn fun here. And the traversal, the environment, the exploration is also quite fun, making for yet another immaculate area. Number 1, Phendrana Drifts. The Phendrana Drifts is the area that encapsulates what is so great about Metroid Prime. The drifts have an incredible atmosphere and big set pieces like big bosses, escape sequences that are Metroid Prime. The bulk of the gameplay in Phendrana Drifts takes place in the middle of the game, so you have the feeling of being more powerful than the start, but still consistently getting big upgrades to kind of lead you along like a carrot on a stick. So in terms of where the game takes place, or where in the game it takes place, I think it benefits from that, like the Phazon Mines did. But let's talk about the other intangibles this area sports. It has the best atmosphere, the best aura of any area we've talked about today. It has the grace of other snowy areas in other games. Think Valk Mountain and Xenoblade, or the Hebrew region and Breath of the Wild in terms of the grace this area offers. But with that tinge of the creepy and otherworldliness the rest of Metroid Prime has. The snow surrounding the old monuments of the drifts, it's just really cool. The music only adds to this feeling that the area gives off. It's just really incredible. By far the best atmosphere and vibe I think the game has to offer. Now let's talk about the gamey stuff here. Let's start with the bosses. I would say regarding the bosses, the fights themselves are not particularly interesting. For me, the cool part is more about what the bosses look like and the areas that they take place in, or the arenas the fights take place in. It's about the spectacle. Sheegoth is a weird, cool, ferocious ice dinosaur that is like a leveled up version of enemies you've been fighting throughout the area so far. Then you have Thardus, a giant rock monster you fight in a huge arena. The fight itself is pretty lame, but provides some good spectacle, as this is probably the largest boss in the game. So neither of the bosses will blow you away or anything, I just think they're solid. Phendrana Drifts does provide the most memorable moment in the game for me though. It's a really sick sequence as power goes out and you are completely reliant on your thermal visor. Whether it's fighting or opening doors, you have to do it with a thermal visor. Not to mention that Metroids come out to play during this sequence as well. To me, this sequence is by far the most memorable part of the game and the biggest reason why I have the Phendrana Drifts at number 1. And yeah, that's the Phendrana Drifts. First, I want to say thank you all for watching the video. I would really appreciate it if you stuck around by subscribing and if you would leave a like on this video. I wrote the script over a much longer period than I would have initially liked to, so I apologize if there are any mistakes in the script or if I said anything contradicting other things. So yeah, my bad on that. I don't think I did, but hopefully not. Anyways, I would love to make this sort of a series on the channel where I go through a game and rank its main areas. So hopefully that can happen. In terms of the direction of the channel, I still plan on eventually getting to full-fledged reviews of both old and newer games, but doing a video in this style is a nice way to start to get back into the swing of things and hopefully in the future sort of help break up those bigger type of review videos. So feel free to suggest any Nintendo games you want to see me cover next, and I may even stream them as I get reacquainted with it. Anyways, that's all from me. I'll catch you guys next time.